Well, welcome to everyone. This is another membership roundtable between some of the experts that collaborate with Football Science Institute. Today it's a pleasure for me to be here sharing a time with great professionals, as is the case of Andreas Beck, actually head of performance of physical preparation in Eintracht Frankfurt. Hi, Andreas.
Hi all, nice to be here.
And we also have we have the pleasure to have here to Joao Diogo. Joao actually is the head of sports science in Sporting Braga in Portugal. Joao, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello everyone, thank you for the invitation.
And finally, we have the pleasure to receive to Sebas. Sebas is a very good friend. Has been fitness coach in the last 10 years in professional football, and the last experience has been AEK Atenas, and he has extensive experience working in Spanish La Liga and also in another countries as Qatar or Emirates. Was Emirates?
Yes, United.
Yeah. So Sebas, it's a pleasure to have you here and to share this time with you.
Thank you. Hi to everyone. Thank you, Bernardo, for the invitation.
Okay. So today the main topic is the preseason. Actually, you know, we are in mid of preseason. We are finishing the preseason in most European leagues. So I want to clarify to our students and our listeners that we are going to talk about preseason. We are going to share our experience about it, and especially thinking in the preseason in most of the European leagues. So we are going to be thinking in this context. So and let's start. The first question that I would like to share with you is to talk about the structure of the preseason. You know, obviously, I would like to start from the beginning. For the first moment in the preseason is what's your experience in respect of how do you receive the players? You know, because when we think in the preseason and we look from outside, the first question that always we talk with students or with them in FSI, for example, is what to do. And the first thinking is, okay, let's see how are the players, you know. So my first topic to talk is, what's your experience in respect of how do you find the players when they start the preseason? You know, tell me about your experience in this way. Now, do you hear me?
Yes, and then I will start.
Okay.
I lost connection.
Sebas?
Yes. Now I'm back, but I lost connection for just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I was thinking like this because of I was talking and I didn't receive any sound. So let's start like this. You know, when we start the preseason, we receive the players. Maybe some of the players we have been working with them, some others not, because they come new to the club. So let's start in this first moment. In your experience, how is the state of the players actually? How do you receive them? If you perceive there is a great variability between their fitness or not, let's start talking about this. Who start? Sebas, you or
Okay.
Andreas?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yes. In my opinion, there is variability when you receive the players, but this variability will be greater or lower depending on the context. Like, first of all, for how long was the off-season period?
Yeah.
And also which was the state of the players, of each specific player, when they left on holiday. So as higher was a chronic load for each of these players before they left, there is a reverse relationship with the decreasement in fitness that they will have. So I think there will be room for variability, but this room will be higher as bigger is the transition period and as bigger are the difference between the players when they left. So I think also it's going to have an impact if the players were starters or non-starters in terms of the high chronic load that they accumulated by the previous season. So depending on all these factors, there will be more or less variability. And also we will have part of responsibility in this variability based on the programs or the work that we prescribe to these players during the off-season period. So it's not only about the responsibility of the player doing the program, but also about the tools that we give to these players to do the program. So also will have an impact, our knowledge about these players, if they are new players for us, or if we were there the previous season and we have most of the players from the previous year, in terms of how I'm gonna, let's say, sell the program to them in order to give them a nice and easy program, give them the minimum effective dose in order to maintain the fitness, or at least try not to decrease very much in comparison with the end of the season. So I think the variability will be there, but we can manage it based on our work and also based on how are the different variables about the length of the off-season period, about the chronic load that they were receiving before they left.
Yeah. So Joao, Andreas, do you want to add something in this respect?
Yeah, in my mind, the issue is, I agree with Seba. It depends on if you have starters and they have accumulated a high chronic load and then go into off season and recover from that. But also if you have the non-starters who are maybe in a decreased state of fitness going to the off season, there you have to adjust the off season program.
Yeah.
One thing is, in my experience, because we have such a long season and football is such a high demanding mechanical sport, that the off season is a good way also to rest the players, so that we can gradually build them up to an optimum level.
Yep.
Or so they can send a performance. So this is more or less my philosophy, so that they come prepared, but we have also the pre-season then to increase the performance to the optimal level for the long competition phase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Joao, you want to add?
I agree. Yes, I agree completely. That what was said, especially the part of the starters and non-starters. But nowadays, I think that this variability, at least with my experience, there is variability, but tends to decrease. Maybe because the players use the period of break to train, and sometimes it's normal to see players that don't finish the season very well in terms of fitness capacity, but they start the season very well. Sometimes training with our programs, but most of the times training outside our recommendations. And it's very common, for instance, and it happens again in this season. Most of the training is related to strength training, and sometimes they arrive in the preseason period with high levels of CK, for instance, and then we have to decrease a little bit the load because they train a lot in the time break. So I think also not only related to chronic load, to being starters or non-starters, this time break is very essential also to define this variability also.
Yeah, in this way, if I listen each one, I combine all your opinions, and I think it agree completely with my experience. What, for example, like Joao said, now my perception is that now in the with the time, players comes with less variability, so it's less frequent to see players out of shape. I think the actual player in my opinion, have more knowledge, or more experience also in training, or more people around him advising respect of not only training but also nutrition and style of life. So it's like, this is my perception also. But at the same time, like Andreas said, sometimes, and I include myself, we lose the perception, the real perception that football, soccer, or soccer for Americans, the competition is practically near 9 months, and there is no sport in the world with this length. And if you incorporate international competitions, then you take more length, and at the end you have practically no more than 4 weeks of holidays. So it's like Andreas said, at the end it's a lot of mechanical stress, especially the players that are playing normally, and we must to let them, to rest mechanically and mentally also, because there are many travels, many kilometers. So it's a balance. But the truth is, like you said, on the other hand, for example, you receive players with Zika and stress values are higher. So in the last weeks, maybe in the last weeks before start the preseason, they train a lot to reach in good shape, and then they maybe overload more than normal. So yes, it's true. It's the situation we have, no? And at the end, it's a balance between all. So great. Okay, so now we are in the beginning. We have seen, you have, in my opinion, you have said great tips and great knowledge in all the as well. Now let's see in the testing. Okay, we receive the players. For example, which testing do you think it should be ideal to include or not? What do you think in your experience, or your ideal context to evaluate? Is necessary or not? Which ones? How you prefer? You can start how you prefer.
Okay, then I would start. Yes, in my experience, I'd like to have 2 screening days, which are mainly medical orientated. So like hearing, vision, teeth status. So everything what's considered that, and then I'd like to have a picture from the aerobic capacity, so where I can take them from, because I think when we say when we talk about fitness, and this is not just aerobic capacity but also power, strength, and so far, velocity, I don't want, or I decline to start with power, strength, and velocity testing at the beginning, in the first part of the preseason, or at the first part, just the aerobic capacity, and then bring the players in and test the rest while preseason, mainly strength and power at the end of preseason. So this would be my recommendation out of my experience.
Perfect one. Sebas or Joao?
Okay, yeah, I agree with Andreas. In my opinion, the ideal situation for us normally is to give a couple of days for the medical testing, mainly just to have a initial picture of how the player came back. But in terms of performance testing, let's say with all this, with strength test, even the running, the intermittent test, I prefer not to include them at the beginning of the preseason, mainly for 2 reasons. The first reason is because I think that the information that I'm gonna get is something that is not gonna be very reliable, because the player is coming from an inactivity period, or he's supposed to be in a not very good shape, and with just a little bit of training, he's very likely to be improved in terms of fitness. So this information is not going to be reliable, and maybe I will have to retest after some weeks. So I prefer not to do it. and to do it a little bit later. And what is very important for me is to try to not to, let's say, spend time just in testing, but to use the test as a training load. So if I can include the test as a part of the training and I can adapt to my training periodization during the preseason this test, that would be the best scenario for me, not just to spend one day just in testing or to do it isolated. Let's say if I can include and I can get involved everything at the same time, I think then I'm getting a good training load at the same time that I'm gonna get a reliable information that is gonna be useful for me in terms of training, and also that the test is gonna give me information to train, not just to have a number of which is the status of the player, but more about a number that is gonna give me tools in order to train.
Yeah. So use more the testing you do, use as part of the sessions or drills. You can even use drills to as testing. Yeah. Joao, what's your opinion this way?
Yes, I agree. Sometimes the best way to do it, and Sebas told that, to have reliable information is to do it after some weeks before starting or after starting the preseason. But talking about my reality, sometimes I don't have that chance. I would like to have it, but I don't have it. Sometimes I have only one chance to test because I'm not the coach. And for us, there's one thing that is important. We like to test all the players, even knowing that they are not in the best shape. Sometimes when they start preseason, first to try to have a status of the general capacity, to in a certain way try to distinguish some loads at the beginning if possible. But also for us, the screening is also very important, not only for that moment, but also to have an idea for instance, return to play after an injury during the season. Sometimes I know that not the best option, but we use the test from the preseason to have an idea of their status and to try to achieve the same conditions or a little bit better. But I agree. And for instance, there are some tests, for instance, the velocity test that the Andrew said, they are very difficult to do in the first days, because normally we are afraid to have an injured, but we do it anyway, okay? Because we know that the players now are a little bit shaper than they used to be, and we use the first days to do it anyway. But it's complicated. It's something that is not easy. The theoretical part and the practical part sometimes is not difficult. It's not easy to combine.
Yeah, completely. But imagine we do. But like I agree, and my experience is like Andrea said. It's very common to find in teams the possibility to define the first 2 days as testing. Yeah. Like Andrea said, very important, this medical testing that sometimes we forget. For example, vision and teeth and audio. Sometimes we have seen real deficits in vision of some players that never was tested before, and this is true. And but also, now I have here two questions. First, the results, Andrea. What do you think? How we must present the result to the players? Imagine we test. We have, because test at the end is a number of variables that that obviously is very heterogenic term, because it can be blood test, can be some fitness test. Body composition. But imagine, for example, let's imagine body composition. What's your opinion in general about how to communicate this information to the player? What do you think about it?
We do body composition, and also in the first week of the preseason, not on the medical days, because the margin for another test is too close, and so we test them then on the following day, because it's easy to do. every player gets his result.
Uh-huh.
And in order, if there's some deficit or something which concerns us, even too low body fat, for example,
Uh-huh.
which can have an influence, then this gives us the key to talk to the player,
Okay.
and maybe to change some of his behavior.
Okay.
To make him robust for the season, in terms of muscle mass, in terms of body fat, in terms of hydration, for example.
That's the thing, because for me, one of the main meanings that I think it could have this testing is, like you all said, is to have a reference where the player is. And like you said, Andreas, to have the possibility to use this information to reinforce, to redirect better the intervention with the player, and to make the player more participant in the process of training. So in this way, I consider really interesting this type of testing, because at the end can help you to connect the player with the process of training during the preseason.
What we try to do, Bernardo, according to your question, because sometimes we test and most of the times, sometimes it happens we don't give any feedback to the player. We just train with him, like, okay, correcting some deficits or whatever. And we notice along the time that, okay, we are always testing and the players are tested. So what we do in a simple way is just to give like an ID card to the player, when you can see his performance status, and the performance status is transformed in one number, a score from 0 to 10, with different weighting factors according to the test. And at the end, he can compare himself with the team, but in this case, with the team from data from 6 or 7 years ago, from the preseason, and he compare himself how he is in this moment. So it's just a way to try to convince the athlete that what he have done, it's for him, or is for important for us, and he can compare himself with the others, and he can have a reference of his status. Just a very simple way to try to convince them.
Yeah. So now let's start to think. Okay, we have this testing, and like Seba said, we can stand more or less. We can start including tools that or tests that at the end, at the same time, increase your load, or you can manage. Okay, let's see. The next, for me, the next topic is thinking the phase, steps or stages of the preseason. And then I have two different points. First, in your experience, do you devise the preseason in different stage for you? And at the same time, the second thinking for me, or question, is, imagine we have a player that we receive in very good shape, because sometimes happens you receive a player in very good shape, the player from previous seasons, and you receive in very good shape. How is the difference for him, the preseason, in respect of the rest, the average, we could say? These two situations I plan. So Sebas or whatever.
Yeah, in my case, I don't really divide it like in very like specific phases. I don't really cut it, let's say. Uh-huh. In my opinion, it's more like a process where there is a progression in let's say, in the focus of the different contents, but I don't really divide it like I'm gonna work just these contents in the first weeks and then I'm gonna progress to other contents. I try to work in everything that for me is important during these weeks in a progressive way. So with the logical not to be very aggressive. Also, it's going to depend on how they came back. Also, for me, from the beginning, the main focus is to adapt the team to the game model, to get to know each other, to a little bit to show them how are we going to work during the season, to create some habits, to educate them on how do we want things to be done, let's say. But I don't really split the preseason in blocks, let's say. Mm-hmm. But it's more about giving more or less focus or importance to the different contents through the process.
Okay. You want something to add, Andreas or Joao?
Yeah, in first of all, it's context specific because new coach, new rules. So trying to
this is the most important
to do some planning goes right out the window if the coach has a completely different idea. I see it the same way like Seba. I'd like to educate the players in that period. I'd like to explain a lot to create buy-in, and so we can implement processes right from the beginning. So when we have some really things we're always coming back to, for example, in warm up or in regards to sprinting, when we focus, for example, on switching, projection, and reactivity. So now in preseason, we get more time to educate and to explain to the players why we're doing it, and how we want them to do it. And then in season, everything gets faster, more fluent, and we don't have any time loss, because in our part, the coaches don't want to spend too much time standing the players around. They want to see good content, and now this is the phase where we can introduce them to.
Okay. So you are,
Bernard, is that my main concern is also the progression, not only for fitness, but also for injury prevention. And I think the fundamental idea is that sometimes it's not respected, but the progression, not dividing the preseason specifically, but at least maintaining a progression in the load.
Yeah, I think in this way, more than a stage, because this is ideal, ideally, and I think it's not. What I see is that at the end you have each player, and each player is in a shape, fitness state, are also, when I say not only fitness state, but also in a state of knowledge about the model, the game, how the coach is gonna work. So we could say that each player has an educational level, different educational level, because maybe it's a new player in the club, or it's a new staff coming, or so it's like you have an educational level, a fitness level, and at the end it's the progression during the process. So it's like this. And sometimes, and now we go to the last part, but sometimes you find when you receive the preseason, the club tells you this week you have 10 days in this training camp, and then you have a match there and a match there and a match there, and then your plans go. You need to adapt externally, to other. I don't know, Andreas, if you experienced previously. Now with COVID, it's less. Maybe it's less trips, but in the years before COVID, it was little crazy. My experience was little crazy in this way.
Now this was hilarious because these marketing pre-seasons.
Exactly.
Where we had to fly to China, to Japan, to the US and play some games there with jet lag, with almost no training. Coming back, then at the end we had just 2 weeks of really pre-season where we can add some physical load in the progression. And this was, if there's anything to find positive in COVID, then we have a regular preseason right now.
Exactly. 100%. I said that this preseason, this marketing preseason, the main aim was survival. You know, it was, you know, don't get injured. You know, it's the first thing. Let's we think about increase the performance. But it's true. It's true.
Maybe I'd like to add something. So what I like to do is to create a game reference and to orientate the key parameters on that, so we can give feedback to the coach maybe where we in which parameter maybe where we overloaded the player. This was the case, for example, when we started. So so we began with a lot of small-sided games, a lot of possession games, a new coach, everyone is motivated, and our acceleration, deceleration were going out of the window, way over that what we needed for optimal capacity.
Yep.
So I think this is then the way, if you can create some game reference. And then have a goal. Okay, what capacity do we need for 2 games a week, for 3 games a week, plus a buffer? So with on how much we wanna how much load in that parameters we want to train our players at that different time of preseason.
And in this way, I wanted to, before to go to the last part, I would like to focus on friendly matches. But in this way that you are commenting, Andreas, one of the main problems we have seen also during preseason is that sometimes you have numbers or you know exactly which player is overloading respect of others. You know, it's easy to see and measure, and today we have more data because we have all external load, internal load, and we have more data actually to define which players is near overloading, other players is okay, is adapting well. How is your experience to talk with the staff, with the rest of the staff, and to try to define individual trainings or resting in another, and not try to, for example, I tell you one example this week. One team was training double sessions, training in the morning group, in the evening a friendly match, training in the morning friendly match. And I was talking with one colleague of us, his fitness coach, and he said we had a real problem because some of the players we wanted to take out of the program, but it was very difficult. We have closed groups. And what's your experience with this? For example, when you see one player is overloading because of the training that is programmed, and how has been your experience with the, if in these possibilities you have had the chance to take out the player and give some rest to one player in respect of the others or not? Because for me, this is one of the most difficult part that I've had in football. You know, sometimes it's the possibility to talk with the coach or staff and say, I perceive, I have the numbers that this player should rest today and not be incorporated in the group. And the player want to be also rest, you know, but at the end it's like very difficult to coordinate this. I don't know.
Bernardo, according to my experience, it depends a lot on the philosophy of the coach.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can do it very easily. We can manage the load of the player and do it individually also. But in other situations, is more complicated because the coach also wants to promote teamwork or whatever, different parameters, and is more complicated. So I think we have all the tools we need to do that. But in my experience, depends a lot on the philosophy of the head coach, for sure.
Yeah. And your experience similar? I think yes, no? Sebas,
I agree. I think it mainly depends on the philosophy of the coach, but also sometimes also depend on the philosophy of the player. I think some players, they don't want to be taken off because this is gonna point them somehow, like they don't want to train that preseason. You know, there is this thing around preseason that you have to suffer, let's say, and even the players have accept that in their mind. You know, they believe that if there is no pain, there is no gain during preseason, and some players still have this concept, and even you advise them that it will be wise to step off for one day, or it's like you have also to convince them. And if the player is not convinced, and then this will not be helpful to convince the coach, because the player is going to say, no, I'm okay, but the fitness coach is telling me just to get off the pitch.
Oh,
so
I mean when the player is the first person said, hey, I'm overloaded. No, I mean this situation, you know, when the player tell you, excuse me, you know, the situation, for example, I was telling is like this, you know, the player said to you, comes to you, say, when you ask him your internal load, how you wake up, the wellness, he said me, I'm destroyed. I would like to rest today. No, this situation, I mean, Sebas, when the player tell you, I would like to rest today, for me, it's not possible to play this evening, for example, in a friendly match. And I have lived this situation, you know, a situation in which the player tells you, I'm destroyed. I'm really risk to get injury tonight playing. And that's why I agree completely what Joao said. It depends the coach, the philosophy of the coach, and the accessibility that you have with the coach. And maybe if you have a performance department and that is different to the staff of the coach, so this is complex, you know. I think depends a lot the club, how is the situation. But in the other hand, like you said, Sebas, you have cases in which the player wants to go and he feels the load and wants to go. But I was thinking more in the case, in the case in which the player tells you, I would like to rest, you know, I need rest, especially with this situation of friendly games, you know, in which there are.
Yeah, I think that then the key is the communication with the coach, and how much does the coach trust your opinion, let's say. So if you have a very close relationship to the coach, it's going to be much easier to take that decision. But as you say, if it's an isolated department that is not part of the technical staff, then I think the problems are easier to come up.
Yeah, completely agree. This way is no, it's only when Andreas was talking about the situation in which today we know more how is the load that the player is experiencing. At the same time, we have more possibility to access also internal load parameters, not only their opinion, but also some parameters that tell us more about the internal or the general load. And we know more, you know, we have the possibility to control more and to avoid injuries or chronic injuries that are happening, you know, in this moment. Okay, let's finish him, and then we are, you know, taking that, you know, in the line we are talking. Let's talk about friendly games. As Andreas said, now we don't have marketing friendly still now. We are stopping the marketing preseasons, but I'm sure it's gonna come, Andreas. So it's gonna come next season.
It's part of the circus.
Exactly. So next preseason we have marketing 100%. And so, what about friendly games? What's your opinion? How should be introduced? How many friendly games would you like to have in an ideal preseason? Let's imagine ideal preseason if it exists. What do you think? Do you hear me?
Yeah. No problem, Andreas. Go ahead. No problem.
Okay. No, I think friendly games are it's more or less okay to how demanding are those games. So regularly you start with a team which is in on a lower level, which makes everything easier, and then increase the level of the opponent, and then the game speed of the competition will then more reflect. So it's also a progression there. And I think games are the most important parts of the preseason. So bring them to the competition in their jerseys, with tactics, going on the field, having an opponent they don't know. So I'd like to have friendly games, but also in the planning, in the rhythm, which will reflect the season. So if we, for example, playing a EuroLeague next year, so regularly we'll play a Thursday, Sunday, for example. So we get used to also to that rhythm, and start maybe with also games like 2 times 30 minutes, which we've done this year, for example, with another team.
This is great. This is great. Something to add, Joao or Sebas?
Yeah, I completely agree with Andreas. I think at the end, the games are the most valuable tool that we have in order to get this football fitness, because maybe we are getting fit, but the most important thing is that the player has to be adapted to competition and to play a game. Also, there should be progression on the minutes that they play and how we manage this. But I think also this is very dependent on the coaching staff, because at the end, even you have an ideal plan in your mind about how minutes are going to be shared between the players, we cannot forget that we always want to win, and even in preseason, positive results are important for many of the coaches, because maybe they are playing for their position or whatever. So maybe you want to give some minutes, but then at the end, things change and it doesn't depend on you.
Yeah.
And also it's key for me to get used to whatever you're going to face during competition, as Andrea said. So if I'm going to play twice per week, I think during preseason we have to start to adapt to this kind of pace, rhythm.
Yeah. Right. You have something to
yes, Bernard, is that progression in the complexity of the game and the level, and also in the minutes played, for instance. Give an example, normally we have around 7 in average to 10 friendly games during the preseason. I don't know the reality of the other leagues, but here is more or less like that. But at the end, the players only play 90 minutes in 2 friendly matches. So we have a progression in terms of times that at the end of preseason they have more or less 2 games in
Yes.
90 minutes.
This Joao is more or less is my experience also. You know, between 6 to 10, normally
Okay.
6 to 8 friendly matches, and at the end it's like you said, maybe players, we could say starters, or maybe players are exposed to 2 games, you know, full games before it starts.
Yeah,
So
full game. Yeah.
Yeah, and the important thing, Andreas, you were commenting, is the possibility to choose the opponents and make progressive, you know, the quality of the players in front of you.
And there's one fact, another fact is that you have maybe a lower opponent, but you're in a state of more fatigue.
Exactly.
Because we're in the start of preseason, we put in new heavy loads on them. They're dealing with fatigue, and they have to play the games at the beginning of the preseason. The first friendly games under much more fatigue than at the end, where we more or less try to get them fresh, to get them also to real game speed.
Exactly. In this way, I consider another area, you know, it's like a very interesting area, is to expose the player the possibility to play with higher fatigue level, you know. So I know this is risky because of you exposed to maybe to get more injury, but at the same time, maybe it's a very powerful stimulus, you know, to adapt. So I agree completely. I think in this topic, all of us, we are very, very similar, you know, it's clear for everyone. And I think all of us believe that maybe, like Andreas said, is the most important tool we have to adapt, you know, is to expose the player to real competition. And then we are going to finish So we have been talking for a long time now, and but some conclusion you have about the preseason in general, or in the actual preseason we have. If you could give the most important tips for this for our students, what type of tips would you like to give as conclusion about the preseason? I remember you that some student we have, for example, they ask me a question normally, and this is the question maybe I had when I was a student, you know. They are studying, they never had the experience to be in front of a group of a team, and I remember this question because so it's repeated. How do you plan the preseason? Do you have some preseasons to see? For example, it's the typical question, you know, do you have some preseason? I can see how you plan. So what's your conclusion? What's the main tip you can give to our student?
For me, my opinion will be, first of all, context, which is the context that we are facing. Then I will say progression, not to get crazy trying to do everything in just 4 weeks and think that this is going to make a huge impact during the season, just to be progressive. I will say also education, like to try to use the preseason to develop tools that are going to be very helpful for us during the rest of the season. That will be my 3 main tips.
Okay. Something to add, Andreas or Joao?
Yeah. If you think of preseason, it's also called preparatory period, but don't get caught on that you can prepare for such a long season in such in that short time. You will have to train hard and constantly still in the season, and don't overload the players at the beginning, but don't do to less than in season.
Okay. This is the art. Eh? It's an art. And like
I only have
context.
I only have to what was said, and I completely agree. To use the preseason to promote some habits that are going to be a reference to the in-season period. Okay. Also, use this period for that.
Completely agree. Okay, mates, has been a pleasure. A lot of very good tips. I hope our students really appreciate your experience, your knowledge. You are, for me, has been a pleasure to share this time with you. So see you, my friend, in next membership roundtables or in live in the next weeks. So has been a pleasure to have you here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernardo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.